My name is Hinkle. I'm from the Palm Beach Society, Spiritism Society of the Palm Beaches in Palm Beach. Now the topic today is the consulting Christ. Consoling Christ. We're going to start off this presentation with a passage from the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is called the Gentle Yoke. I'm sure a lot of us has heard this passage many, many times, and this is something that Jesus has told us. Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for you, your souls, for your yoke is easy and the burden is light. So what was Jesus telling us, teaching us from this statement? It was some of the things that he was bringing forward is the physical pains and the loss of loved ones that everyone will sooner or later experience. We can find solace in the certainty of the future and confidence in God's justice, both of which Christ came to teach us. By contrast, people who experience nothing after death, or who are simply skeptical, feel the full burden of their troubles. Because their souls are burdened with hope that lightens our burden. So this is what prompted Jesus to say, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you the rest. So the comfort and bliss promised to those of us who are overburdened and defended our fulfillment, the principles Jesus revealed. So obvious to those principles is the yoke he alluded to. However, the yoke is light and gentle because it prescribes only love and compassion. Remember, Jesus brought a lot of love to each and every one of us. And that's one of the main messages, to follow your heart. So again, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, under the same chapter, which is chapter 6, we get this passage which says, if you love me, you will obey what I command. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another counselor to be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. The world cannot accept him because it neither sees him nor knows him. But you know him, for he lives with you and will be in you. But the Counselor, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will remind you of everything I have said to you. Now, remember one thing, each and every one of us has a conscience and has the laws of God in us. We all have it in us. We may not understand some of it, but we do have what is right, what is wrong, and the conscience from God. So in this, Jesus promised another counselor, the Spirit of truth, about which the world at this time has no awareness, since it did not understand such an idea in that time of period. The Spirit of truth would be sent by God to teach us all things and to remind us of Christ's will. So in this way, the spiritual document gives actual forms to what Jesus said about the promised counselor. It enlightens us to whom we come from, where we are going, and why we are on earth. Further, it reminds us all to observe God's law and to find comfort in the faith and hope of a better future. And this is why we reincarnate over and over, to have that chance to grow, to learn from our past lives, and to make sure that we learn from each lesson each and every day. As we know, every day is a challenge. Every day is something that we learn from. So after I got through this section here from the Gospel according to Spiritism, I started looking into, again, the consoling Christ, the counselor, somebody who's teaching us, which we now know that through the passages that Jesus said as he continued his consulting and teaching us each and every day on this earth. He was sent to us to bring knowledge. So now I got into deciding, and you guys I see have gotten into our bread of life. I pulled out passages from our bread of life. Our daily bread, excuse me. And found stuff that Jesus said during his teachings. So I'm going to go through each of these and kind of give you some of these readings, because you guys, it sounds like, have been going through a lot of these each and every day, am I correct? Or each and every Sunday? And this is such a wonderful book, as we see. From our daily bread, number 9, page 31, people of faith. And Jesus said, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who builds his house on the rocks." So, what is Jesus telling us here? Not only listen or study what he says, but you must always put these into practice. Individuals of faith are not necessarily those who are pretentious in words and enthusiasm, but rather who always show and project attentiveness and goodwill was brought to us from Jesus. So remember, what we read, what Jesus is telling us, we need to put into practice each and every day. The next passage, again from our daily bread, number 39, page 91. And again, these are all from CLSGvideos, from the Spiritual Manual. Invitation to righteousness. Jesus said, "But when you are invited, go." Now, Jesus did not insist on, Jesus was listening to us, and during our common struggles, each and every day, we must remember that during our times of prayer, I'm sorry, got one ahead of me, I apologize. Jesus was telling us here that righteousness has constituted the divine fountain capable of providing immoral values. The sacred invitation is repeated year after year. It comes down by way of our loving parents, our academic mentors, from healthy reading materials and studies from the religious sentiments, and from our common friends. So in the gospel of Jesus, the invitation to righteousness is groomed in the eternal truth. By accepting it, we will be able to proceed towards the encounter with our Father without hesitation. Now, the next passage from our daily bread is when you pray. And Jesus said, "And when you stand praying, forgive." Now here, Jesus is letting us know in his teachings that during our common struggle each and every day, we must remember that during our times of prayer, we must maintain our inner peace and not hold any grudges or hatred, but to forgive so that we have a healthy and loving prayer. Prayers is very important to each and every one of us, because it is our way of communicating with God. He listens to each and every one of us as an individual and as a group. Again, we cannot pray with hatred in our heart, because it's not something that is acceptable. we must forgive. Remember, forgive. Those who have problems with people, we must forgive. So remember, pray with an open and loving heart. God will listen to you every time. Now in our next passage, our daily bread, enemies. And from Jesus, but love your enemies. Wow. Now I know some of my enemies I'd like to, but then I have to hold back and say, that's not what God wants us to do. Jesus did not insist on applauding the ones who would deliberately steal or destroy. And nor did he request that we multiply the wings of perversity or ill intentions. He is recommending actually that we aid the cruelest, however, not by incorrectly bestowing our approval, but rather by demonstrating a general fraternity desire to install in him to follow the divine path. Though patience and love will help so much, first we must remove the poison of hatred from our hearts and show that love and understanding is what we need. So again, our enemies, we must show compassion. We must show them the path. You may not be able to instill it in them, but if you constantly show the love, hopefully that love will spread to them. Now in my next passage, good manners. Our daily bread number 43. In this one, Jesus says, take the lowest place. Now in this passage, Jesus is teaching us that good manners is very important in our daily lives. Recommending a good look at ourselves each and every day. For instance, someone who enters a home or participates in a reunion for the first time with an air of superiority, a know-it-all, and an attitude that you don't feel good about, and give the impression of being from a better environment than the one in which he is visiting, and becoming intolerable to those who are present. That's not good manners. Each and every day we must understand ourselves. We must accept what we see, and we must make sure that we do not say things that are wrong, say things that are ignorant. We must be good at heart. Now the next passage, make us the light. Jesus said, walk while you have light, before darkness overtakes you. Here Jesus is letting us know that we will be able to foresee a blessed light of immorality, while in the past you will perceive the shadow of ignorance, of malpractice errors, and badly lived experiences. So with this blessed opportunity, it is possible to redeem, to achieve, to learn, to conquer, to unite, and to reconcile, and to enrich yourself in this. The advantage of the gift of time you have been given is edifying your work. Stay away from the inferior conditions and acquire higher understanding. So what he's saying is, to make light of things, we must take advantage of what we have now and learn. Don't dwell in the past. And make sure that you're moving towards, again, that perfection that God is wanting us to move each and every day of our lives and each and every one of our reincarnations. Now, I was given a wonderful book the last time I was here called Jesus in Our Homes. And I came across a passage which I thought was very much a part of this study that I was doing. And in this, it said, on a certain occasion the master said that only the truth would set people free. So Peter asked him, Lord, what is the truth? Jesus answered, complete truth is complete divine life. However, humankind is still far from being able to bear its sunlight brightness. I'm going to read the whole story here because it's a very interesting story here. Lord, what is the truth? And an imminent look appeared on Jesus' face, and he answered, complete truth. The complete divine light, however, mankind is still far from being able to bear its sunlight brightness. But perceiving that the fisherman was eager to further enlightenment, the heavenly friend thought a few minutes and said, in a dark cave where the daylight never enters, lives a devoted man who prays for divine assistance. He claims to be the unhappiest man. However, in his blindness, he feels he was better off than anyone else. He complains about the stench of the place and where he lives. The contaminated air is suffocating me, he said. He cries pitifully. He begs for a door that would set him free and lead him to the light of day. He claims to be strong, capable, and useful. Why was he stuck here in this painful seclusion? He weeps and howls, lays bare in affection and demands. What are the reasons for him being forced to live in that unbearable environment? When our father saw this son making incessant pleas in anger, rebellious, and bitterness, he was deeply touched and sent faith to him. The sublime virtue exhorted him to trust in the future and to persist in prayer. The wretched man felt somewhat consulted, but in no time at all he went back to his complaining. He wanted to escape from the dungeon heap, and since his tears increased even more, the Almighty sent hope to him. The emissary wiped his persistent brow and spoke to him above the eternality of life, trying to dry his desperate tears. For this, he asked for his calmness, resignation, and strength. The poor man appeared to get better, but after a few hours, he went back to laboring. I can't breathe, he claimed in desperate. Sympathetic, the Lord declared that charity should pay him a visit. This new message caressed and fed him, spoke kind words to him as if it was an unselfish mother. Even so, because the miserable man continued his shouting and rebellions, the compassionate Father sent truth to him. When this bearer of knowledge made itself visible in the form of great light, the unfortunate man saw himself for what he really was, and he was stricken in dread. His body was monstrously massive of pustulent sores from head to toes, and he realized to his horror that he was in fact the very cause of his unbearable environment in which he lived. The poor man trembled and struggled about, and noting that serene truth had opened the door to his freedom, he was horrified of himself, without any courage to think about healing himself. Rather than looking his visitor straight in the eye, in order to learn how to cleanse and purify himself, he ran off in terror in search of another cave where he could hide the misery that he alone has caused. The master paused at length and then said, "This is what happens to most people when faced with reality. They feel they have the right to receive all the eternal Father's blessings, and they cry out loudly, begging for heaven to help them. When they are aided by faith, hope, charity, they are at first consoled, and then they become disconsolate. They believe, and then they disbelieve, feeling timid, angry, and hesitant. However, when truth shines down on them, revealing the real state they are in, they are usually quickly to run off in search of hiding places, dark hiding places, where they can cultivate their delusions." Very, very good reading from this. Because again, we must understand that when given the chance, when given the opportunity, we must take it and move forward. Not bury our heads. Don't go out there crying, or don't go out asking for things that you're not willing to accept when it finally comes forward. So now we'll get into another passage back from our daily bread. Number 80, it's the no and the struggles. And Jesus said, "Simply let your yes be yes, and your no, no." Jesus is showing us to not allow your loves to become a shackle, impeding you march towards the superior life. Be of assistance to whoever needs your cooperation. But meanwhile, do not allow your assistance to foster disturbance and vices in other paths. Assist anyone who requests a favor of you. However, do not yield to frivolous and foolishness. Cultivate graciousness and cordiality. However, be loyal and sincere in your attitude. Yes can be a very agreeable in all situations, but saying no is a determined area of human struggle and is more constructive. So as you say yes, it should be pronounced without flattery and avocation. Saying no should be pronounced without harshness. So make sure that when you are asked advice, bring it from your heart, from your soul. Now the next passage from our daily bread, number 2, pause and think. And Jesus said, "The miracle I do in my Father's name speaks of me." In this passage, Jesus is telling us that each spirit brings with him the vital history of his own acts. And by his own actions and achievements, he is known for his merits and demerits. As in Jesus, what we think of our Savior, who would institute such a regulation for humanity without sharing its difficulties and impediments. Think about this. Jesus was among peasants, laborers. He lived among doctrines of law and rebellious sinners. He walked among the sick and the afflicted, and he ate stale bread with the humble fishermen and fulfilled his saintly taking amiss to thieves. What more can we ask for? If we look for an easy life and distinguished position in the world, remind yourself of the Master. Pause and think. So we need to think, pause and think about what we see, what we do, who we're with, because each and every day is a new trial for us. And to finish off my study today, we have our daily bread, the last one, believe and follow. And this came to me very strong with the reading of this last passage. And I'm going to read it from the book, and I think you guys are going to understand it very much. As you send me into the world, I have sent them into the world. My friends, if you embrace the Christian Spiritist task in the name of the sublime faith, thirsting for the superior life, bear in mind that the Master sent you a renewed heart to the vast field of the world in order to serve Him. You will not only teach the righteous paths, your actions will be accordant with the elevated principles that you preach. You will dictate noble directions to others, but you will proceed within them as well. You will proclaim the necessary for good humor, as well as proceed on the paths, spreading happiness and blessings, even when you are misunderstood by all. You will not be content in distributing coins and immediate benefits. You will always donate something of your own to whomever is in need. It is not enough to be forgiven. You will understand the offender, assisting in his transformation. You shall not be critical. You will encounter unexpected resources to be useful. You will not be demanding. You will take advantage of the time in order to materialize the good thoughts that direct you. You will not argue uselessly. You will find a path of service to others everywhere. You will not simply combat evil with words. You will obtain goodness and planting it in everyone. You will not condemn. You will discover the light of love in order to have it shining within your heart until the sacrifice. Pray and be vigilant. Love and wait. Serve and renounce. If you are not disposed to take advantage of the lessons of the Divine Master, molding your own life to His teaching, then your faith will have been in vain. Thank you very much.